Today, we're talking about how traditional selling is working against you. I'm joined by Tom Stanfill. Tom is the CEO and co-founder of ASLAN, and author of the book, UnReceptive, A Better Way to Sell, Lead, and Influence. Tom has revolutionized the sales strategies for major industry players like HP, Johnson & Johnson, Cisco, and FedEx, guiding them through the seismic shifts in the sales landscape. Tom, welcome.
Thanks,
Please tell
Rob.
us a little bit about yourself and your journey into sales and where you are today.
Well, thank you, Rob, and thanks for having me on the show. Excited about the Sales TV. I was first introduced to it when you guys reached out to me and wanted to have me on the show. So thank you. So my journey in sales is, as I was telling a group of sales professionals last week as I was leading a workshop, which I like to do from time to time, is that I've always been 100% commission salesperson, even before I graduated college. So I'm not an academic, although I've read a lot of books. I've learned everything from actually practicing the art of selling and trying to feed my family, which is a large family, and being successful in sales. And I've worked myself, worked my way up into sales leadership, and then through a couple of cool things that happened, ended up starting my own sales training firm, which now I've traveled. I mean, we've been over, I think 30, the last count is 42 countries. We've delivered our program in 42 countries, trained, I'm sure, well over 100,000 people. And so I think the main thing that I focus on really in running the organization is how do we learn from the people who are out there doing it every day, and what do they do that works, which is really where the book came from.
So let's jump right into it then.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean when you say traditional selling is working against you? I mean, this is what I was trained to do.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and this is the thing about selling and influence. It's like what works is so counterintuitive, and I'm not really sure why, but it's like our intuition about how to build relationships and how to influence and how to impress people and are typically you backfire. But when you think about traditional selling, so traditional selling is the idea you go to court. Right? If I need to go to court and win an argument. It's a logical argument. You know, you have an opinion and I have an opinion. And if I come up with the best argument, someone will rule and say that's the best argument. And therefore we're going to adopt Tom's recommendation because it's the most sound, logical recommendation. And that's the traditional approach, right? Or the other traditional approach is work really hard, right? Which I'm all for, working hard. But if I'm not hitting my number, I need to work harder. And I need to make better arguments and have better value prop and have better case studies. And here's the problem. When the customer is emotionally unreceptive, which a high percentage of customers are unreceptive, the principle is when they're unreceptive, when someone's unreceptive, the more you try to persuade them, the more unreceptive they become. So if you sell, you lose. If you don't sell, you lose. Well, this is typically the strategies. Well, let's go. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday. Like he said, I want my tigers. I mean, I want my sales reps to be tigers. And it's like the problem is the tigers doesn't work. You know, and that's the whole thing. You know, there's the philosophies out there. We got to challenge the customer. We got to take control, and that's great if the customer's sitting there with the pen and says, "Tell me what to do." Then you need to tell them what to do. You need to lead them to a better solution. But the problem is if they're unreceptive and emotionally closed, that strategy backfires. And by the way, that's why customers are in droves not wanting to talk to sales reps. McKinsey did a study recently that said the percentage of customers who want to talk to a seller when evaluating a solution has declined 120% in the last 3 years. So the information that's available, like we don't have to talk to salespeople. We'll either talk to people who know about the solution or we'll do our own research. And so, because I don't want to suffer through that. So a lot of our work is teaching sales reps to be invitable. It's becoming a person.
That's a nice expression. Teaching them to be invitable.
Invitable. Are you? It's one of the first questions I ask if I'm speaking. Are you invitable?
So, if I heard you correctly, I heard you say the traditional selling approach does work when the prospect is asking, "Tell me what to do."
Exactly. And that's education. To me, that's not really influence. That's more about education, and that's great. And we need to educate them. If they're saying, "Tell me what to do," I'm here. I believe you. I'm open. Right? If they're open, the traditional approach works. They're basically saying, "I want to make a logical decision. I need information and facts to help me make the best decision. So be credible, represent your solution well." But the reality is it's becoming harder and harder to find what we call a fertile soil, which is it's a metaphor that we use to explain this idea of what we're really talking about. Is receptivity is about creating a fertile soil. That's really what the book's about. It's about how do we create a fertile soil, because we're so focused in sales on the seed, our message. If the soil's not fertile and you try to plant the seed, it is a waste of time, because the best seed in the world, the most genetically modified seed won't work if the soil's not fertile. So we've missed a dimension. So it's about creating a fertile soil, because the customer's willingness to listen is far more important than your ability to communicate. Because if somebody really wants to know what you think, you'll probably be able to communicate that. But if they don't, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you've got me wondering how many sales take place where the buyer was seeking a solution versus how many sales take place where the salesperson introduced the buyer to the problem and their solution. And I don't know if there's research out there that speaks to that, but that would seem to me to indicate which path to move forward as a salesperson, just based on what I'm hearing from you. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think if you're saying, I'm not really sure of the distinction between you're saying they're looking for a solution versus they're not looking for a solution.
Right.
Yeah, the difference about the point the research reveals, it's more about emotion than it is about logic. So if they're open and they need a solution, then you deliver the solution, you communicate. If they're open to talk about their problems, you help them understand they do have a problem. It's an unconscious problem, but you help them realize it, but they're open to it, and discovery leads them to realizing there's a problem, and then you can deliver the solution. In both those cases, if the customer's open, traditional selling works. Ask questions, ask really good questions, get them to tell you what's going on, and then deliver. Once they tell you, you ask these good gap questions, and it helps them see things they don't understand, and then you deliver the solution. Great. Continue to use spin selling. But if the customer's like, "I don't trust you, I'm not going to tell you what I really think, I'm really wanting to work with somebody else, but I'm here because I have to be here because we have to talk to 3 vendors. Or I'm just going to go with the referral that I got from somebody else because I don't know anybody. I don't trust any salespeople. Or I'm not going to even talk to you at all. I'm going to do all my research online. And then I'm going to try to get information from you about pricing without talking to you. But you're not going to influence me because I'm not open."
Well, interestingly, this is one of the things that we see with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's most salespeople, in my experience, most salespeople can sell.
Yeah.
The challenge that they have is that they haven't got anyone to sell to because people don't want to talk to them. And
I love that.
They
can tell. They just have nobody that's well.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it? And
that's beautiful.
You've got a lovely way of describing things, and you're very good at articulating that on paper or face to face. But the problem is, if I don't know who you are, it's just words. No seller ever says, "We're third best, we're a bit expensive, we're not always on time." Every seller says, "We're market leading, we can solve this problem, we can solve that problem." So if I don't know you, I've no reason A, to listen to you, and B, believe anything you say.
Yeah.
And I find it utterly mesmerizing and staggering that I will get an email from somebody that is a financial advisor that I've never met before that says, "I'd like to talk to you about your pension planning."
Mm-hmm.
And well, why the hell would I tell you anything about my financial situation? Because I haven't got a clue who you are.
Right.
And we see the same thing with B2B sales. So obviously a personal something is something that's very personal to you. But in B2B sales, I'd like to talk to you about the 5 main challenges facing your business at the moment. My business's 5 main challenges are none of your business.
None of you. Yeah. Right.
And building that rapport and that basis on which you can get to know somebody and have that trust and that openness, create that openness, is a prerequisite of selling anything these days, isn't it?
It really is. It really is, because the percentage of people who are yeah, come on in. I need to meet with people and learn more about pension plans or whatever solution you're offering. I do that as part of my role, is to meet with people who I don't know and learn about solutions. That just does not happen. No, and you can, though. And I want to make sure we talk about hope. You can get meetings, you just can't do it the same way that everybody else do it. I mean, if I look at my inbox, my LinkedIn inbox, my email inbox, everybody is still doing the same thing. They're throwing the same seeds in the same way. Like, they don't need to talk about their solution. They need to describe my problem in a way that compels me to read that email.
But that's the problem, isn't it? The problem is that if I met you in the line at a coffee shop, or I met you at a networking event, or Rob introduces me to you,
right,
there's already a degree of that interpersonal connection. Now, I know that meeting people in the line of a coffee shop,
which is emotional.
Yeah, but it's not a scalable thing.
Yeah, no.
But the problem with the email is that it says, whatever the headline, no matter how clever the headline, the problem is that I'm not going to read it because it's from you and I don't know who you are. And that's the barrier that people have to overcome these days, isn't it? It's like, and you said about your LinkedIn inbox, I can pretty much guarantee that today alone you've had 4 emails from people telling you that they can help you redesign your website. And I feel like responding to these people saying, "Oh, brilliant, I've never had an offer like that before."
Exactly. Yeah.
And then when they say, "Have you not?" Yeah.
You have to do these ad channels work, and this is part of what I talk about in the book. But you have to describe their problem in a way so they do believe that they know you. Like, if you reached out to me, and by the way, this has happened, it's extremely rare, but if you reach out to me and say, "Tom, you own a training company. You have X number of people globally, and your biggest challenge is this." I would read that email, and then I would think, okay, this is interesting. And then if they shared something disruptive about a better way to solve the problems that I have, I would read that. Now, I may not reach out to them, but I'm going to go, I've done this before. I'll keep the email, or I'll pass it along to somebody else. And then they reach out again. And then over time, usually takes a couple of touches, and they become somebody I'm considering. But the same old, we do these, our solution does this, or I want to redesign your website, or I get 10 a week that tell me they're going to generate leads for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to get marketing. You're kidding. You're going to generate leads. That's great.
Constant stream of leads.
Not one of them. You know what they need to say? You get 10 of these a week. And you know what? And you probably tried it before and it didn't work. And then I'm like, damn right. That's exactly how I feel. But see, they're talking to me. It's not some bot.
But actually you wouldn't, though, would you? If you're totally honest, you wouldn't. You'd say, you're damn right. And this one won't work either. Junk.
Well, it depends on so we teach 3 things. When you are positioning a meeting, and we're just talking about one of the receptivity challenges of getting through the door and getting a meeting, we talk about 3 things. One, you need to lead with what's on their whiteboard, not your solution.
Yeah.
If you can picture their whiteboard, whatever it says on that whiteboard, if you lead with that, you'll get their attention 100% of the time. If I show you a picture of you, you will look at it 100% of the time. But we show them pictures of us. Hey, this is who I am. Would you like to meet with me? And they don't.
That's enough about you, Tom. Let me tell you a little bit about me.
Exactly. Then the next thing they need to say is related to the whiteboard problem is a disruptive truth. Some unknown insight, principle, best practice, something that they believe that they don't know is true. Most people believe this, but actually this is true. That gets me to lean in a little bit, and it elevates the seller. And then the last thing they need to do is communicate something that's unique about them. Here's why. You're right. The reason that lead generation campaigns don't work is because this. And I would go, okay, that's interesting. And what we do is specifically focus on sales training industries. And we've been successful at working with these companies because we do the other 2 things that I just mentioned. I would respond to that email.
There would certainly be a much better chance of you.
Or at least yeah. And we've tested this. It's not 100%, but it's 365% higher.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the easy one, by the way, is when you talk to people, if you actually do catch them on the phone, or you meet them at a trade show, or you meet them if you're wandering around the office and you're account manager and actually you're out in the field. There is ways to introduce yourself that will almost always end in a meeting, but reps struggle with that.
I've got a briefcase full of $1,000 bills. I would like to deliver it to you in your office. When are you going to be available to take that meeting with me?
Rob, I mean, Adam, I think I could be available this week. With you. Adam, I would even fly to UK to meet with you if that were in fact true.
Yes.
Tom, you mentioned three things, and preparing for today's interview, I found three things as well. So I wanted to ask you about each of them. First of all, what do you mean by drop the rope?
Yeah. Wow. That's when you're talking. You can do that in an email or introduce when you introduce yourself, but it really is a key concept throughout the sales process. So the 3 P's that really drive receptivity is priority, pressure, and point of view. And so we kind of talk about point of view as really, priority is basically who's the hero of the story. And so we can talk more about that. And now that's leading with their whiteboard. That's communicating that they're the hero of the story. And ultimately, really, sales reps, a lot of them really don't make the customer the priority. Right. I mean, it's a very simple thing to talk about, but when it's actually genuine, it's transformative. When you really are saying things about the customer and communicating, like Adam said, hey, here are the gaps in our solution. And here's why you may not need us. And here's why you might need us. And here's what we want. We're designed to meet these needs. And my goal is genuinely to figure out if we can help you meet this need. If we can't, genuinely, I don't want to work with you. I'm an orthopedic surgeon and I do knee surgery. And I only do these kinds of knee surgeries. So if you don't need that, I don't want to work with you. So that's the priority piece. But the pressure piece, which is the drop the rope, comes from this idea of the tug of war principle. And that when we're in sales, because we have sales rep on our title, or because there's a commission involved or assumed commission involved, there's going to be a tug of war. You're going to try to get me to do something, and instinctually, I'm going to pull back. It's just the way we're wired. When we feel like people are trying to force us to do something, we always resist. I saw a picture of a sign that said, "Do not throw rocks at this sign." It was just belted with rock. Like nobody would have thrown rocks at the sign until you told them not to throw rocks at the sign. And so what we teach them is you want to eliminate pressure for not only the customer, but for you as a seller, and make both people need to be comfortable by dropping the rope and saying things like, I don't know if you need what I sell. I don't know you. We just met. I said this in a presentation the other day. I said, look, this is our second meeting. I've spent 30 minutes with you. I'm going to share with you what we've learned and what we believe are the best practices related to solving the problem that you mentioned. But I don't know if you need ASLAN, but this is our take on what's required to solve the problem and and achieve. This is what our experience says. So my goal in this presentation is not to sell you, and I mean that. My goal is to share with you what we've learned over the last 30 years doing this. And if it turns out that you think we're a fit, we'd love to work with you. Now, if I say that in a genuine way, everybody gets comfortable. I get comfortable. If I say, hey, if now's a good time, I'd like to learn more about, and they say now's not a good time. Great. Well, why don't we set up another time? They're like, no, wait, I was just saying that to get rid of you. You mean, and the reality is we have no control. Control is just an illusion. But when we trade the illusion of control for the opportunity to influence, it's like now we have a chance. So that's the drop the rope, and it needs to be delivered. We need to drop the rope throughout the process, even whether advancing, building value, discovering. Like drop the rope and discovery as a customer. There's wrong answers. Like there's things the customer knows they don't want to say. Like I like the competition, or I'm not really that interested. And when they say something that's not going to be pleasing to the ears of a salesperson, and the salesperson says, okay, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe we should delay this. Or, you're saying the funds aren't in place. Well, maybe this isn't something we should be doing right now. Maybe we should delay this. All that does is draw the person closer. They become more open. And now they're more emotionally receptive to whatever you say. Because here's the thing, unless we know the truth and we know what their beliefs are, we're never going to change their beliefs. But that also means we need to be receptive to them, and that maybe our solution isn't in their best interest. And the reality is we're going to close much more business, have better conversations, better relationships, and better long-term success if we're willing to drop the rope.
All right. So a tug of war reference then.
Yeah. Long answer to your
Okay.
question, but that's a key concept.
That's perfect. All right.
Well,
So
it really resonates, doesn't it? And one of the things that for me is most attractive about selling is when you don't have to sell. When you have a conversation and they want to buy, because it's effortless. They're walking towards you because they genuinely feel that there's a good fit between you and them.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the challenges that salespeople face these days is that it's very difficult to get a meaningful conversation with somebody. And as a result of that, every conversation takes on these biblical proportions in terms of how important it is. And, we work with large enterprises headquartered in London. Okay, but you're in the US and you're a small business. That's fine. You're a really good fit as well. Because and actually, you hear that time and time again, don't you? So what does your ideal customer look like? Well, they're men and women as well. So basically, anyone that can give
whatever. I need business.
Exactly.
I need business, so I will say and do anything so that you will work with me because I need money. So trust me.
And but the problem is this happens time and again, doesn't it? And
because
what
it's
you see
counterintuitive
is that the seller ends up attracting to them a bunch of clients that are a really bad fit that they cannot satisfy, because the things that I'm really good at are not the things that matter to you.
Right.
The things that I'm really bad at are the things that you think you're buying. And it's a marriage made in hell, not in heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And what we don't know when we are desperate, as I've been in my life, when I remember early in my career, is that vibe, that motive, that sense of desperation is palpable. People know it.
Yeah,
the motive is ultimately transparent. People know. And when you're, this happened not too long ago where I thought the person was not a fit. I was convinced they weren't a fit. I happened to get this call. Somebody referred them to me. I had to make a call. I filling in for somebody else. So I took the call. I met with this guy. I didn't take a call. I set up the meeting. And I basically was telling the guy, here's why you don't want to do certain things. And here's what you should do. Because I was basically saying, you're not going to work with us. You're too small. That was really the bottom line. You're too small. Yeah, we don't work with small companies. And I was basically, turns out he was a pretty big company, but their response to such honesty about what they need to do and me being so candid and not needing their business at all made them much more attracted to us. They think about, like I always say this, and it's so obvious. Like, what if you walked in to try to talk to a doctor about surgery and they were desperate for a surgery? Like, please, we need to do surgery. This is it's gonna really, and you sense that you're like, I do not want to work with this doctor. They obviously need the business.
But we've all seen this in our lives, haven't we? When you were at high school, the time that every girl found you irresistible was the point when you had a girlfriend. The point when you didn't have a girlfriend, it was like you had two heads. Nobody would look at you twice. And it is really interesting, isn't it, that people find authenticity, honesty, relaxed attitude, openness. They find those things so incredibly attractive.
Yeah.
And they find that desperation, that hunger, they find that incredibly unattractive.
Yes.
Yeah. And it unfortunately, salespeople often become their own worst enemies from that perspective, don't they?
Well, and that's the whole idea of the traditional selling. It's like that people think that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's the language we use, the hunter, that, as the guy said the other day, the tiger, and it's all about us versus them and killing. And because there does need to be tenacity, right? It's not easy to be successful in sales and get started, but the work has nothing to do with who you are and how you interact with the customer.
Absolutely.
Right. The work comes in with like picking your list and going through your list and sending out your messages and doing your research and becoming knowledgeable and having the expertise to lead the customer to the right solution and knowing what's on the customer's whiteboard and doing the work. Right. That's where the hard work. Then when you get with the customer, it's like you have to relax. And I know it's not easy. Like I said, I've been in sales my whole life, and I've had a large family and have 100% commission. So I've never had a base salary or anybody's guaranteed me anything. So I get it. It's not like I haven't been in the real world, but I've also been desperate, and that didn't work. So you got to work hard to get there. And then when you're there, it's about serving the customer. It really is. That's the biggest, it's the simplest thing to do, but there's a decision that needs to be made before every meeting, because we all default to self. It's a decision to be made before every meeting. It's either about them or it's about me. There's only two options. And when I stop before the meeting and I say, even where if I'm speaking, it's like, this is not a performance. This is not about me. I am here to share good news to help people in their role. And as soon as it's about me, I am less effective. And that is so simple, but it is transformative. And then if you pay attention to when you make it about you, you'll see what happens in the dialogue. And it's so subtle. It is subtle, but these concepts that are very, somebody said it the other day, they're very simple concepts, but they're very uncommonly practiced.
But I do think that to a certain extent, there is, people find it very difficult to stand back and view themselves as others see them. So it's like that famous story, isn't it, about the guy goes out for dinner with this girl and it's a first date, and they're sitting at the table and he's talking about, I've got this car and I've got a big house here and I've got this and I've got that and the other. And he said, anyway, that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me?
Tom, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How can people learn more about you? Where can they find you?
Oh, love our new website. We just got a new website up, ASLANtraining.com, ASLAN training.com. And so obviously you can learn a lot. Or you check me out on LinkedIn. I think we got connected our channel to LinkedIn. That's Tom Stanfill, Stanfill on LinkedIn. So obviously we'd love to hear from you there. Love to respond to any comments or messages or questions. And obviously the book, UnReceptive, A Better Way to Sell, Lead, and Influence. Check that out on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. My friends are like, where do you get the book? Wherever you buy books.
Do you have it handy?
Yeah, I do. I got a hand. Here's a picture of it. I don't know if you can see it. Is that back?
It is backwards.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Well, this has been awesome. Again, thank you so much. Adam, thank you for joining me. This has been another edition of Sales TV. We look forward to speaking with you all again next time.